Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at a conversation I've been seeing rolling around for a little while now. Now that Black Bottom White Flare is out, this is the final set of the Scarlet and Violet era. So, naturally, when we got the final set of the Scarlet and Violet era, that leads a lot of people to ask the question, well, hang on a second. What was the best set of the Scarlet and Violet era? What was the set that really set the world on fire? And I think there's two different approaches we can take here. We can go for the set that made the most competitive impact, and we can go for the set which was the most valuable. And let's take those one at a time. Let's start off with value. Now, in terms of value-wise, a lot of the early sets did very little. You know, you have Scarlet and Violet base, Powder Air Evolved. A lot of these early sets didn't, to put it bluntly, naff all in terms of value. They're not even close. Frankly, there just aren't that many valuable cards in the set even nowadays. So what sets can we start having a look at? Well, might I introduce you to the Black Horse set here, which is Twilight Masquerade. Twilight Masquerade is a set that I think everybody forgets when we're talking about value in terms of cards, because if nothing else, gave us Greninja. Greninja's a big deal, dudes. Greninja's a $260 card. Problem is, after that, it does kind of crash. Perrin comes in at $90 and Carmine comes in at $75, and then everything else is $50 or below. So we do have a couple of really nice cards on the top end here for Twilight Masquerade, and that's fantastic, but the set falls off pretty hard. I raise this purely as a don't sleep on this set, because it's got a very heavy hitter, and then a couple others which, they're not on the same level, but they ain't too shabby. Obviously, in terms of recent sets, Destined Rivals. Now, Destined Rivals is still very new, but it's actually a pretty good set value-wise. Team Rocket's Mewtwo is not far under $400. Cynthia's Garchomp is $200. And then we've got Ethan's Ho-Oh at $150, Moltres at $135, Nidoking over $100, and then we kind of start going down from there. But as a regular set, Destined Rivals is kind of busted, honestly. There are a lot of good value, high value cards here that are going to make a bunch of people sit up and go, hang on a second, maybe this is a set we need to take a little more seriously. And certainly, we can look at some other cards here from some other sets, but like Journey Together, it had Lily's Clefairy that's like $130, and then a few that are like 60 or 70. It's not on the same level as the sets we've just looked at. We could be taking a look at something like Surging Sparks, and it's a set that immediately jumps to mind because of Pikachu. And Pikachu, to be fair, is about a $270 card. And then we got Latias at $155 and Milo Tick at about $90. So we look at that and we go, well, hang on a second, that's a good start. And it is a decent start. Unfortunately, it's also a decent end. By which I mean it's the end. That's it. It's those three. And those three are nice little cards. But that's it. That's what you get from that set. So in terms of regular sets, we can look at Destined Rivals, which is the number one for now, but it's also very new, so it's hard. And we can look at Twilight Masquerade, and that's about it in terms of value. Like the Scarlet and Violet era as a whole, in main sets, very important, in main sets, not that big a deal. I'll be honest with you. There's just not that many big cards in main sets in the Scarlet and Violet era. And you might be noticing I'm specifically saying main sets a lot. Because if we're looking at value, mini sets. Mini sets is where it is. And there is an obvious answer here, a very obvious answer, and it's prismatic evolutions. And if we're going for pure value, I don't think anybody is going to be surprised. It's prismatic evolutions. Like, let's not pretend there are some other serious contenders, or maybe there's another set out there that's bigger than prismatic evolutions. No, obviously there isn't. The Umbreon is about a $1,000 card. Sylveon's coming in at $365. All of the other evolutions are around about the 200 mark or higher. Even Roaring Moon is 160, and that's not even that big a card. No, make no mistake about it. If we're going for value, Prismatic Evolutions. Prismatic Evolutions is winning by an absolute landslide. And, you know, when it comes to value, we can look at it in very objective terms like this, where we just look at what is the most value. It's here. We could briefly entertain some other special sets if you like. Paldean Fates has the $350 Mew and the $160 Charizard and the $75 Gardevoir. Yeah, we're already down to $75 with 3 cards in, and there's a pretty big gap between Gardevoir and what comes after Gardevoir. So as much as I like Paldean Fates as a set, and I do, we cannot seriously entertain this as a contender in terms of value, because it's not a contender in terms of value. We can have a look at something like 151, another set, incidentally, which did have a Charizard, but that Charizard's like sub $200, and then we got Blastoise and Venusaur that are around about 60. So again, 151, great set, love the set. Big Gen 1 nostalgia coming on from me here, but let's not pretend it's actually anywhere near something like Prismatic Evolutions. And I've just named a couple of sets that you are probably aware of are very sought after sets, and I've ended with, but they're nowhere near. And that is the resolution here. They are nowhere near. Now, it is worth noting, obviously, that we do have Black Bolt and White Flare, which is so new, it's really hard to actually try and figure out exactly what the deal is going on here. But we do have the free black and white rares, which are kind of big. And then we got Special Illustration Rare Reshiram and Special Illustration Rare Zekrom. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's so new, and the prices are already coming down hard, that, you know, maybe the black and white rares end up at like $400-ish. But even then, if we get super generous and say that the illustration rares of Reshiram and Zekrom sticking around, say, $200, maybe at that point we can start to have a conversation. I still think it's getting roundly beaten out by Prismatic Evolutions. If we end up with all 5 of those cards at their kind of maximum potential, then yes, we can have a conversation. But that is about the only way. Regular sets, we are talking about Destined Rivals, and special sets, we are talking about Prismatic Evolutions. What about playability-wise? Well, if we start off with those 2 sets we've just been talking about, they both gave us a deck. Destined Rivals did give us Marnie's Grimmsnarl, which has been a top deck. But it's like a top 3 to 5 deck, and it's the only one. And similarly, we could take a look at Prismatic Evolutions, which has given us the Eevee decks, which I'm going to categorize with Flareon here, which is a top deck, by which I mean a top 3 to 5 deck, and it's the only one. Oh. Cool. I don't think that's going to be enough, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that's going to be enough. So I think we need to go a little bit further afield and really try and look at a lot of what's been happening here. And if we really try and have a look at, say, not even the whole of Scarlet and Violet, but say like the latter half. I mean, there are 3 or 4 decks, let's say 4 decks, that really stand out. From Twilight Masquerade, we've got Dragapult, absolutely huge, phenomenal. From Obsidian Flames, we've got Charizard, absolutely huge, but not as big as Dragapult. From Scarlet and Violet base, we've got Gardevoir, which honestly, I think probably I would jump it over. It's hard, because in the earlier days of Scarlet and Violet, Charizard really was everywhere. Nowadays, Gardevoir has roundly beaten it. We're trying to look at, 12 sets worth of meta here. It's very difficult. And then we've got Raging Bolt, which is kind of hanging on in there. But Raging Bolt came around in Temporal Forces, a different set again. Now, if we flick it up to the number 5 deck, we've got Golden Go. Oh. Yeah, Golden Go came from Paradox Rift. It's not really helping us, frankly. Or is it? Because you know what? There was another deck that came out of Paradox Rift, and that was Roaring Moon. Did get second at the World Championships. Has been arguably a top 10 deck in the meta, depending on where you slice it. And there's an argument to be made here for Paradox Rift. But I think the winner kind of has to be Twilight Masquerade. Because one of the biggest non-EX decks, definitely a top 5, arguably higher deck of the entire Scarlet and Violet era, even though it's now not legal anymore, has been Regidrago. And Regidrago only worked because of Teal Mask Ogapon, which came out of Twilight Masquerade. So you could argue that, as well as arguing that Dragapult, which I think at this stage, it's Dragapult and Gardevoir. They're the only real 2 arguments for the best deck in the Scarlet and Violet era. I think they are the only 2 serious contenders. As always, argue with me in the comment section. And then with Twilight Masquerade, maybe we chuck in Blood Moon Ursaluna, which has been one of the best decks in the entire game. Maybe we add in Iron Thorns, which literally won the World Championships last year. And I think when you add it all up, I think you've got to give it to Twilight Masquerade. Now, there's an argument that you whack Miraidon with Gardevoir into Scarlet and Violet base, and you could actually argue Scarlet and Violet base at that point, but as much as I love Miraidon personally, I'm not sure that's actually the strongest argument. Honestly, you look at Twilight Masquerade, you've got Dragapult, probably the best deck in the Scarlet and Violet era, definitely top 2. You then give it Teal Mask Ogapon, which made Regidrago work, which for a long time was the hands-down best deck in the game. And you give it Iron Thorns, which won the World Championships. And you give it Blood Moon Ursaluna. And actually, yeah, I think, and as always, argue with me in the comment section, I think in terms of playability, you've got to give this to Twilight Masquerade. So which was the best set in the Scarlet and Violet era? I don't think that is an answerable question. I think that is 2 questions. Which is the most valuable set? That's Prismatic Evolutions. Which is the most playable set? Twilight Masquerade. If you really want an overall winner for the actual best set in the Scarlet and Violet era, I don't think that's a fair question, personally. If I had to give an answer, I'd be very tempted to go Twilight Masquerade. But again, I don't think that's a fair question. I really think we have to acknowledge this as 2 separate questions and move on with our lives. Which we kind of have now. So now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think the best set has been in the Scarlet and Violet era. Do you agree with my assessment, or do you think I'm talking rubbish? And please do remember, with the new YouTube algorithm, likes and comments are so much more important than they were before. So if you'd be kind enough to drop a like and a comment, that would be absolutely massively helpful. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And of course, we need to end the video giving a shout out to one of our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/PTCGradio. So shout out to the lovely It's a Coaster, who's been supporting for a long time now and seems to be absolutely lovely. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.